Hi, everybody. Welcome to GW Center for Integrative Medicine. This is Dr. Kogan. I'm not going to edit this video. I'm not going to ask our editor to get involved. It's kind of a semi-urgent video. I got probably more than a dozen emails in the last couple of days about this recent New York Times article about Bredesen protocol and how bad it is, and nobody should be doing this. So I just want to give you my opinion, so I don't have to keep emailing responses and patients and friends calling and talking to me. So I just want to make sure there's my position out there in public on the YouTube channel, so that you can take it for whatever you want. So what are we talking about is this article that just came out a couple of days ago, on New York Times. It's titled "An Expensive Alzheimer's Lifestyle Plan Offers False Hopes, Experts Say." So this has got published literally just 2 days ago. Today is May 23rd, and I'm recording this on the May 23rd. So this article looks into one patient in mid-60s who had started on the protocol and then describes the protocol to some detail, gives some cost estimate, and then basically says it didn't work, and then experts say this is all scam. And the article is extremely one-sided. This is a bad journalism. There is absolutely not a discussion about the fact that there are no current effective treatments, that the current treatments for Alzheimer's do not reverse the disease. They do not even majorly slow it down. At best, they delay admission to nursing home. At best, they give some patients a placebo effect of hope. The newest medication, Leqembi, has a better chance, but again, as a standalone treatment without lifestyle modification, without ReCODE, medication has almost basically no chance of any kind of positive long-term impact. So I would say that I would not be being wrong to say that medication in many aspects is a false hope, because some patients who go on it do hope for recovery, which not going to happen. And so unfortunately, the article didn't try to look at the positives of what Bredesen has done and what the ReCODE protocol has been doing. It did not discuss the uncontrolled, non-randomized trial in any detail. It didn't even mention that the response rate was so dramatic. There was 85% of patients who were on protocol gotten better. It means they reversed some of the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. 85%. Even 20% would have been an amazing. 50% would have been just unbelievable. 85%, not saying that in the article, and saying no matter whether this was controlled or not, having such a profound response of improvement. I'm not talking stability, I'm talking improvement, reversing some of the symptoms. It's a bad journalism, right? If you don't position anything positive in an article. The article refused to provide details who were the expert who were deeply critiquing the work. They give some reference to some names, but it was too general and non-specific. The article did not discuss actual details of a cost. For example, talking about $1,000 a month for supplements, that's wrong. None of our patients spending $1,000 in supplements per month. I mean, $200-300, maybe 400 in some instances. But so the article took an extreme case of unsuccess, and we've seen this in our program, in our clinic. Response rate for patients who are a bit more advanced drops below 50%. And if you don't stick with the protocol, you always get worse. And then there's a biggest problem. And this is what I want to, if you're one of our patients or prospective patients, and you're wondering, well, what happened to that woman in the study? Well, 6 months in the case when there is a clear toxicity is not enough time. In 6 months, in the first 6 months, when patient clearly has a toxicity of any kind, we're just beginning to see slowing down. Why? Because detox is a very long period of time. It's not something you can achieve over a period of few weeks. It takes a lot of time to not only figure out what is the toxicity, like for example, the story there with they were living in a molded house. Well, you not only have to fix that mold first before you expect any chance of improvement, or get out. But after you fix that or get out, you also need to take months to begin detoxification process before you're going to see any effect. So we never give anybody 6 months time lead to get better. We say minimum 12. In the first 6 months, sometimes we're seeing slowing down of progression. Sometimes we're seeing complete arrest of progression. On rare occasions, we see improvement. Article also did not discuss any objective data. It didn't discuss the fact that there are tons of case reports, not only of reversal of cognitive decline based on the cognitive test, but also improvement in the brain mass. We've seen multiple patients in our practice who came in with a hippocampal volume on NEUROC-1 test at single digits, and now they're in 30s, 40s, or even 50%. We had patients who came with p-tau 217 over 1, and now it's 0.2. So we've seen dramatic improvements in not only patients telling us how they're feeling, but in biomarkers of Alzheimer's disease. Article didn't even went there. So, it is what it is. I'm glad that at least there is information that's starting to circulate in a very large main media outlets. But I just hope that this information would have been balanced, just like any journalism. It should have presented something positive. It should have at least picked the patient who actually benefited from the program, because there are thousands of them, and it would have been very easy for the journalist who did this article to find such a person. They could have contacted one of any media academic centers that are running ReCODE program or something similar and really identified such a person. And also, unfortunately, I will say something really even beyond more critical about this article. The article sends a message to the general public. It doesn't matter. Your lifestyle doesn't matter. That's what the article really says. And I've had few of my patients contact say, I should just eating sugar back again. And and that's the best. It's basically that is a major disfavor to the public, because we do know that lifestyle plays a huge role. Lancet consensus on Alzheimer's care. Lancet is the largest, one of the most important medical journals in the world. It's just like in US, we would say JAMA. In Europe, it's a Lancet. And Lancet publishes every few years a consensus document on care for Alzheimer's disease. And the main consensus in the last two articles have been lifestyle methods can prevent or slow down progression in upwards of 40% of all cases of Alzheimer's disease. It's a position paper of the leading institutions across the world. Again, the New York Times journalist didn't even bother to try to look out there. What is the consensus that the researchers are saying? It just picked some random critics of Bredesen and talked to them and presented that as those are the experts, where we don't know who they are even in many aspects there. So I hope that you will do your own research. I hope that you will realize that the results of controlled trial of Bredesen protocols are pretty close. I hope it will be less than 2 years. I do also hope that, well, I can't really tell you, but I expect the results are going to be quite positive. And again, even that result, I'm sure, is not going to satisfy all the critics, because this is not a very large trial. It's only going to have less than 100 patients. But still, the problem with doing research in Alzheimer's disease, it's a very, very slow research. As a professor of medicine at GW, I will tell you, I've done many different studies. Some are larger, some are smaller. And doing Alzheimer's research is one of the hardest things I have ever done. Those trials take a very long time. They are requiring a lot of very close follow-up. The funding in our field, in the field of integrative medicine, for something like this is non-existent, because it's very difficult to assess this. So yes, Bredesen chose to do a very pro-commercial way of doing this, because it's the only way to truly grow it, right? If you have no government funds standing behind this protocol, you're not going to be able to obtain private foundations in sufficient amount of dollars unless there's some commercial interest involved, if they're interested in profiting at it from the endpoint. I mean, am I happy about this? Of course not. Of course, I would love for the NIH or some other entity to sponsor a definitive trial, but it's not going to happen. There is no biomedical way of thinking, that the protocol that takes 20, 30, 40, 50 treatments simultaneously has a biological way of being assessed properly, right? So, the only thing we can do, we can take the patients on this protocol and compare them to standard of care and not think about, well, what's happening inside the protocol. We don't know what's happening inside the protocol. All we can tell you that some patients do amazing well and they completely recover from Alzheimer's. They just go from I'm on a steep decline to now I'm improved and I'm stable now and I'm going to live my life for another 10, 20 years, in my 80s and 90s. And yes, I'm not going to be completely back to normal. That I think almost never happens, in my opinion. But I'm going to be dramatically improved and I'll have a normal life, close to normal or the best I can, versus I'm just going to decline, end up in nursing home and die in a couple of years. And that is one thing that, again, major disservice to the public, unfortunately. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to put links to our program in the description of the video. Of course, I will, again, disclose to you that, yes, we are in the process of submitting our research from our clinic. It's actually a much larger trial than what Bredesen published. It's twice the size. Also uncontrolled, again, I'm saying it's hard to do these things. But we are sending this to publication. Actually, we in the middle of setting this up, so some of our data will be out soon. Again, of course, it'll be critiqued by articles like this, but for what it's worth, we will continue this work. We believe in it. We think the results are profound. I'm pretty sure, or I hope so, Bredesen will get a Nobel Prize. I don't know when, but at some point. And because this is a real process towards the reversing of Alzheimer's, it's towards understanding how to prevent it and fully treat it. And I think we're actually pretty close to a full understanding of how to do it. And I'm going to say 10 to 20 year time lead before we will have an exact definitive steps when somebody presents to us with genetic makeup, and we're going to initiate certain mostly lifestyle and some supplementation treatments for someone like this in their 30s and 40s, and they'll never end up having an Alzheimer's. We already have hundreds of patients who've been with us for more than 5 years, and none of them developed progressive minimal cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's. As you would expect, about 15% of patients progressing from MCI to Alzheimer's, and at least some percent of patients who have ApoE4 gene to move from normal cognition to some kind of impairment. So none of them have. So we know it's of its efficacy. Again, I'm not going to argue with critics. I'm just going to do our work, and we will try to collect our data. We'll try to publish. I think that's how an appropriate science needs to be made. And of course, if somebody comes up with a good grant for us, we will grab it and we will do the control trial. But again, I think in a current way of thinking, there is no model in biomedical research that always looks at one intervention for one illness. And that's not the type of protocol. We will not be aligning ourselves with any research entity or any donors or any kind of investors who would be interested in assessing one drug or one approach, simply because it's not really the philosophical approach of what integrative medicine is all about. And I also, I can talk for Dale Bredesen, but I'm pretty sure he would agree that only when the full out protocol is applied, you have the best chances of recovery. And piecemealing and isolating one part of another and then just giving this to one group of patients and that to another wouldn't be in our clinical interest, at least not at our clinic. It would feel waste of time, to be honest with you, because we know it's not going to, in the long run, do anything. So I hope you have a good weekend. This is right before Memorial Day. This is how I will remember New York Times article as pre-Memorial Day of 2025. Do stay healthy, friends, and we'll see you soon, covering all kind of topics of integrative medicine and what's most up to date in our world of health and holistic medicine and integrative medicine. Take care. Stay well. Bye.